In this half hour, it has been 1 week since Gregory and Travis McMichael were arrested and charged with the murder and aggravated assault of the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. Arbery was confronted by the father and son while in a neighborhood in Brunswick, Georgia.
Arbery's death has sparked outrage and debates all across the country, and tonight our Georgia Godfrey is showing us how South Carolina lawmakers are responding as well.
After the tragic shooting of a jogger in Georgia, lawmakers here in South Carolina thought about ways they could better protect residents if a similar situation were to arise. Bills have been filed in both the House and the Senate that would define what a resident can and cannot do in a citizen's arrest.
I was just floored. I couldn't bring myself to write about it or post about it.
The case of Ahmaud Arbery, a jogger killed by a father and son in a Georgia neighborhood, sparked conversations across the country, including here in South Carolina.
When I saw what happened and that the prosecutors were not going to initially prosecute the men who killed him because they said that they were making a citizen's arrest, I thought, my goodness, I have to find out what the citizen's arrest law says in South Carolina to make sure that something like that couldn't happen here.
State law allows a citizen to arrest a person and even take their life if that person has entered a house, is in possession of stolen property, or simply raises suspicion that a crime might be committed.
The parts of the law in South Carolina dealing with deadly force and citizen's arrest are just unconscionable. It's hard to believe that it's not abused more.
But South Carolina lawmakers are hoping to tighten that law. Bills have been filed in both the House and the Senate that would limit the use of deadly force to just the entering of a home.
If it was a burglary or some type of theft or drugs or anything that is a nonviolent offense, and that person's life wasn't in imminent danger, then I just think that the appropriate law enforcement authorities need to handle that.
It's unclear if lawmakers will take up either of these bills when they return to the State House in September for a 2-week session. In Columbia, Georgia Godfrey, 7 News.
So now, even though South Carolina law allows the use of deadly force for several different scenarios, citizens can only use deadly force if they see suspicious activity at night. In North Carolina, a citizen can only arrest someone in the process of assisting law enforcement. Georgia's citizens arrest law is similar to what's currently on the books here in South Carolina.